Stand by to fall in, Polk County. This is today's veteran. Hello and welcome, and on behalf of everyone at the Polk County Office of Veterans Services, thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Tim Kirkhart, and on this installment of today's Veterans, we talk about how the Department of Defense Warrior Games held in Tampa recently. But first, we want to talk about Polk County's Veterans Service. Polk County Veterans Services is here to help current, former, and future service members wade through the intricate and sometimes complicated process of obtaining military benefits. Many of Polk's nearly 60,000 veterans can take advantage of this free service, which can include providing information about compensation, education and training, home loans, military pension, and survivor benefits, just to mention a few. Joining us in studio is James Williams, Supervisor for Veterans Services. Welcome, James.
Thank you, Tim.
James, you're new at this job, but not as a veteran service officer. So can you let our audience know what the mission of Polk County Veterans Services is?
Yes. Well, Tim, I started in 2016. I was a veteran service officer, and I worked in the trenches for a while doing claims and benefits and stuff like that. And recently I was promoted to supervisor, so I spent the last 90 days in this position. So it's quite an honor to do this job, and I love it every day. Our mission is simple. Our mission is to maximize the veterans' benefits. And I say that because there's plenty of veteran services county offices all over Florida. The difference between our office is when a veteran comes into our office, we take care of the veteran's primary goal, and that is whatever he or she comes in there for. But we take it a notch higher. We take a look at any other benefits that the veteran is entitled to. For instance, if a veteran come in to talk about his knee, he wants an increase on his knee. While we're looking in the system, we'll do an interview with the veteran, and we'll find out that the veteran's probably entitled to other benefits that he or she may be unaware of. And once we find that out, then that's when we go in to maximize their benefits.
Just give us a brief, how many veterans are in Polk County approximately?
We have about 60,000 veterans in Polk County.
Wow, that's a lot.
It is a lot of veterans.
Tell us about Polk County Veterans Services as it relates to diversity in the workplace.
Well, as you know, diversity is very important in the workplace. It allows you to bring people from different ages, different cultures, different backgrounds, different ethnicities, and what it does is it creates a employment opportunity to be able to service the entire demographics of Polk County. For instance, we just hired Veteran Services' first female since the conception of Veteran Services. And she's doing great, and we'll have a special on her here in a couple months. Her name is Julianne, by the way, and she's doing exceptionally well. Additionally, I have interviews going on in the next couple days, and I'm looking and hoping to hire a bilingual veteran service officer, and that's very important for our area. Especially considering that we take care of a large Hispanic population.
So when a new person comes in, how do you train them? What's the training? Or is that an ongoing something to be updated?
There are some initial training aspects that needs to take place. For instance, the new veteran will need to get accredited. And after he or she is accredited, they will do left seat, right seat with a seasoned veteran service officer, learn all the trade crafts and skills that go along with our job, to include outstanding customer service. And then there's other textbook style things that need to be learned, and processes and procedures. And it's about a 2-year learning curve before someone actually feels very comfortable doing our job. There's a lot of complexities that come with our jobs, a lot of responsibilities as well.
These new people must be smart, because when I started, they said 6 years to be comfortable. And I'm still working on that. Tell me about a new thing called the Polk County Veterans Services newsletter. What's the start of that, and how did it develop, and where is it now?
Well, as you know, the VA constantly changing. Things are changing, policies are changing, and so we have to keep up with that change, obviously. But in order to educate and inform our public, because they're the consumer, we have to let them know what those changes are. We developed the newsletter in an effort to keep the public apprised of all the changes that are involved with the VA, benefits that they are entitled to, changes that may affect their lifestyle, may affect them as veterans, period. And so we developed the newsletter. It's called Pass the Ammunition. And we developed it to inform the public, hey, this is what's going on. And to give you a really good example, the Blue Water Navy. You know, there's been some changes with the Blue Water Navy. For the longest, the VA did not want to accept Blue Water Navy folks as receiving compensation or benefits for Agent Orange exposure. And now that's changed. And now you can come into our office and we can look to see if you were on or served on one of the vessels that were within the 12 nautical mile of Vietnam. And if that's the case, you could potentially be eligible for some benefits. And if you're a Blue Water Navy veteran and no one have told you this, or you have not heard of it, you would not know to come in and get those benefits. And so we use that newsletter as a catalyst to get that out to the public and say, hey, you know, if you're a Blue Water Navy veteran, this is news flash. You know, come see if you're entitled to your benefits.
So Polk County is a large geographical area.
Very, very much so.
So tell us about where veteran services can be found throughout the county.
Good question. So we have our main office here in Bartow at the Frank B. Smith building, Health and Human Services building. And we developed satellite locations. And there's one in Lakeland, there's one in Davenport, and the one in Lakeland, actually, you're at that location. You're there Wednesdays, Thursdays, well as second and fourth Fridays for walk-ins, 8 to 5. And let's talk about walk-ins, because I think that, so we developed those satellite locations for vets who have emergencies, okay? An emergency is if a vet gets a letter that says that you need to respond to this letter within 30 days. And if they call our office, and our office says that, oh, we're 2 weeks out on an appointment, right? And the vet says, oh my God, I gotta get in, I gotta see you guys. And we don't have an opening for the vet. Well, that's why we developed those satellite locations. We can steer that vet to that location. He or she could do a walk-in and they can be seen immediately in most cases. But we also have a satellite location in Lake Wales on Wednesdays. We have walk-ins there from 8 to 5. And we also have walk-ins at Davenport on first and third Fridays at 8 to 5. And the veterans can go to those locations for emergencies, absolutely.
Okay. So how does that work out as far as people showing up? And are they disappointed when they find out it's triage? We have
to put out expectations, and the expectations are we do have a high demand in our office. We do good work. We care about veterans. We care about people in general, and the people that we hire, they do it from their heart and soul, and that's why we're successful. And because of that, we have a waiting line, and and people know that when they come to us, they're going to get taken care of to the utmost, to include our outstanding customer service. So when they do come to our satellite location, we have to make sure that they understand that you're here for triage and emergencies only. If you have something that will take 30 minutes or an hour and a half, we prefer you make an appointment at our Bartow location. And that's very important, because at the triage, if you're doing an hour and a half work when it's designed for 15 to 20 minutes, then you're going to be taking, basically you're taking away from other vets who's waiting for a triage.
Okay. So you talk about appointments. What's the procedure? How does someone make an appointment for services with veterans?
Well, the vet want to call 863-534-5220. He or she will speak to our lovely secretary, Ms. Carol. Ms. Carol will then take a look at our schedules and see who's available for the veteran at the earliest time available, and schedule that veteran. And from then, that veteran will get a card, or he or she will be told when their appointment will be, and they'll show up at that time.
James, we're about out of time. Are there any parting words you would like to give to our audience today?
Well, other than go Navy.
Thanks for coming. We appreciate your efforts and the team's efforts for our veterans.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Tim.
For more information, you can look them up on the web at www.polk-county.net. The Veterans and Athletes United VAU Fallen Heroes Memorial is an all-volunteer veterans 501c3 nonprofit organization founded by combat veterans with disabilities and run by veterans and caring professionals. In May of 2018, they completed their Fallen Heroes Memorial. Here's a look at the American flag, honoring those who have made the ultimate sacrifice. Welcome back to Today's Veteran. I'm your host, Tim Kirkhart. U.S. Special Operations Command hosted the 2019 Department of Defense Warrior Games in Tampa. Approximately 300 wounded, ill, and injured service members and veterans participated in the competition. The athletes represented the United States Army, Marine Corps, Navy, Air Force, and Special Operations Command. Athletes from the United Kingdom Armed Forces, Australian Defence Force, Canadian Armed Forces, and Armed Forces of the Netherlands and Danish Armed Forces also competed.
But the important thing we're doing here today is celebrating our athletes. These are men and women that refuse to allow themselves to be defined by their worst day, but define themselves by their reaction to that day and the resilience and the perseverance and the dedication and the camaraderie and the family. You are going to witness this week a tenacious competition, but you're also going to witness this week camaraderie and family like you've never seen it before. They are all competitors, but they are all now family, and they support each other and they cheer each other on, and that's what you guys are here for, and I'm so glad you're here.
Ladies and gentlemen, Sergeant First Class Brant Ireland will now pass off the torch to General Clark and Tampa Mayor Jane Castor to light the cauldron. Titus O'Neill also on hand. The 2019 Warrior Games officially have begun.
The most important aspect of the game is that it shows how sport can restore people and not let their injuries define them. So most people that come in the military played sports before they did so. It's kind of a natural fit. And so when they have something happen to them and it changes the way that they are able to use their body, they find a new pathway and they find new vitality, and the competitive juices are still flowing, so it's restorative to be able to play sports. And so we say that we don't want to be defined by our worst day, which is the day that whenever the injury happened to us, but we can go beyond it, and we're using sport as a mechanism to do so.
Back in 2014 when I lost my arm, I sort of got a little depressed. I was a big sports guy growing up and I always had that competition in my life. So when I lost my arm, I thought it was over. And then Air Force Wounded Warrior picked me up and introduced me to adaptive sports in 2015. And ever since then, I gained more competitive spirit, met a lot of new friends, and it just brought that level of competition back in my life.
Well, we've all gone through very similar sort of circumstances. I was embedded with an American team over in Afghanistan, so I worked with them quite closely. They were, so I've got a very good understanding of how the American military works and how some of the other international forces work as well, because of through my overseas deployments and services, that's sort of like I know how these guys work and they know how we work, and there's a mutual understanding, mutual trust and respect for each other, and that's sort of that gets taken onto the court while we're playing the game. It's all out the window, and then we finish the game and we're back into it. We're all mates at the end, mates at the start, mates at the end. So it's an understanding of we all know what each other's gone through. We've all got our own battles, and we're here supporting each other, suppressing those battles, pushing ourselves in new directions, and giving ourselves a new chapter in our book. So my previous military sort of thing, I sort of closed that chapter off in the book, and now I'm in a new chapter in my life moving forward. So I've sort of closed that off, moving forward, and it just helps me in a positive sort of way.
Well, we had, when it was our turn in the rotation, because there are 5 Warrior Care programs that are recognized by both Congress and the Department of Defense, the 4 traditional services, as everybody knows them, and Special Operations. And Special Operations Command actually is the largest Warrior Care program, as Special Ops has borne a significant burden in the last 18 years of war. So when we had the opportunity to bring the games here, it was our rotation. 2017 is when that decision was made in preparation for 2019. You always do it a couple years out. We knew, our commander discussed it with me, we knew we were bringing it to the right place. We knew we wanted to get the public more in touch with the games. We tried that in Chicago. Chicago is such a big place that it was kind of lost in the clutter. Didn't mean the people didn't care, just meant that it was so much going on, it was hard to draw the public in. We knew this community and this area incredibly supportive of the veteran, of the active duty service member and of their families, and in particular wounded warriors, that this was the right setting to do so. We also wanted to have a format that was more of a co-hosting, a community host with the military host, to try to drive the public into it, for them to be able to see and support these athletes and their families and have a perspective of what they're going through, because they're exemplars of so many more. In this Special Operations program, we have 15,000 wounded, ill, and injured. Our Team SOCOM out here is 40. So they are exemplars, they're standard bearers for a whole lot more wounded, ill, and injured that our communities need to support, because not everything's done in the DoD, not everything can be done by the VA. We have to, within the fabric of our nation, continue to support these people.
I think the amazing thing about these games, especially Warrior Games over any other of these sporting events that are around, is that we really support our brothers and sisters to be able to work around their injuries. I've seen people with one eye doing amazingly. I've seen people with no arms manage to shoot a bow and arrow and just do a fantastic job. This is not about getting to the top of your game. It's about finding a way to adapt and overcome those injuries or those challenges that you've had, and the support to do that is absolutely amazing. So get out and get involved.
Yeah, the healing process is not easy, I can tell you that. It's a long road. The adaptive sports here at Air Force Wounded Warrior, it's just been, they grabbed me by the shoulders and pulled me out of that deep, dark hole of depression or anxiety or PTSD, and they brought me here, and I've been 100% ever since. I've had a smile on my face. Yeah, the dark thoughts come back into my head, but then I got sports to think about, air rifle, stuff like that. So it keeps my thoughts off the negative and into the positive.
fact is that if there's one thing where we can all agree is that the people that have worn the cloth of their nation and gone into harm's way on our behalf deserve our support. Come out and see them, but even more so, come out and meet them and get to know them, and get to know the family members that have had to bear these crises, spouses and children that have had whole changes in their relationships with their service member and in their lifestyle, where a spouse has had to give up a career because now they're a primary caregiver to a very severely injured, wounded warrior. That's the kind of thing that people ought to see and experience and appreciate, and then look for ways to support them. We wanted to set a community model, which we've done. We did so in a very economical way, so we've produced the most affordable games in Warrior game history, which helps the Department of Defense feel better about sustaining it, because obviously cost is always a factor. So that's one piece of it. The public involvement in this game and the fact that the spectating by the public's been the highest we've ever seen is another indicator. That's the success we've had, is that we've pulled the public in ways that we never have before, and that we've been able to do it in a format that will allow the Department of Defense to keep it going.
The United States Air Force are the 2019 DoD Warrior Games Wheelchair Rugby Gold Medalist.
For more information on the Warrior Games, go to www.dodwarriorgames.com. That's going to do it for this edition of Today's Veteran. I want to thank our guest today, James Williams, but most of all, I want to thank you for joining us. Remember, for help and information regarding claims, benefits, and services available to veterans and their families, call the Polk County Veterans Service Office at 863-534-5220 or log on to the Polk County website at polk-county.net. I'm your host, Tim Kirkhart, and we'll see you next month.